the fourth be with you. Can we all stand and for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Special reports. Mr. Matarazzo.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. President. The next CT meeting is not going to be till this Thursday, so I have nothing to report, but do want to report our cafeteria does such a great job. A lot of parents need to know what your kids can be eating here. This month, loaded baked potato, dumplings with teriyaki sauce, chicken focaccia, bacon wrapped jalapeno poppers, chicken Alfredo. I can't believe what they get. Panini clubs, chicken quesadillas, all this stuff at the cafeteria. But also know that during the Keystone High School testing, they're going to be providing breakfast and snacks daily during the testing. They're actually going to go to the rooms where they know they have a break. So our cafeteria does an excellent job. Just kind of promote it. Thank you.
Thank you. We had a executive session at 5:15 and received information on personnel matters and property matters, and there's some general topics.
Yes, and the board also received information
Thank you.
From the superintendent and administrators on some various items that are being discussed today without further deliberation, including the budget presentation that's occurring shortly.
No, that's great. That's awesome. Much appreciated.
No problem.
All right, information, Dr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Katasek. We have one guest under my information that we want to introduce. I'll let Rebecca, our new business manager, he's been doing an excellent job. Introduce her.
Yes. This is Margaret from our auditing office. Margaret, if you want to, I don't know, how many years have you been our auditor?
Well, I don't know how long ZA's been the auditor. I've personally been working with ZA since 2017, and I've been on the audit the entire time. So, I've been with you guys for a while. You just haven't seen my face, because you usually see Brian's, because he likes coming here, because he graduated from here. So, so Brian likes coming back occasionally, but today was my turn. Yeah, so as Becky introduced me, my name is Margaret Griego. I'm just going to go over some of the highlights from the audit. I also have a copy of the audit in case you have any further questions to ask me. No issues. I know you love to hear that. I like to say that too. Our required communications per generally accepted auditing standards say that we no significant difficulties. We had no disagreements with management. We started the audit with Brett. We ended it with Becky. Neither of them lied to us. They both are the best. Keep your team. They're the best. We will really love working with them. Management representations had been obtained prior to issuing the final report, saying everything they provided to us was truthful, and no management consultations with other accountants were happening to our knowledge. The independent auditor's report was an unmodified opinion, which just means that everything checked out and was good, and we had no reason to believe that there were material misstatements within the financial statements. And they were all fairly expressed in all material respects with accordance to accounting principles generally accepted in the USA. Just some very high-level overlooks. You had an increase in your government-wide net position. This is because of leasing out that first floor of the administrative building. Since it is a long-term lease out and such a high amount, it is added to your statements, and that's easily over $2 million of future revenue. So that does increase your net position because on the government-wide, it's recognized now and amortized over life. And you'll see throughout the entire statements the lease receivable line. And even in this handout that I gave you, you'll see a lot of the times that the increases are due to this lease receivable. That'll all go to your spending ability, which many places are hurting for right now. So that's a great thing for your future perspectives of that all. Looking at the balance sheet, you had an increase of $2 million. Again, that's the lease receivable. Everything else stayed fairly the same. There weren't any huge decreases that we noticed. There was nothing that caused alarm on our end. Liabilities had an increase of 61,000, but that was less than 1%. So really, that shouldn't be something that anybody looks too far into. That's just the normal. Everything costs a little more now. Deferred inflows increased, again related to the lease receivable. Your revenues increased nominally, honestly, just 2.2 million, which I know sounds like a lot of money, but it was only 3%. And that's just going to happen because everything gets inflated. Grants go up, so costs go up. It rises both on the revenues and the expenses side, because as you see the next line down, that expenditures also increased by 675,000. You get the grant money, you spend the grant money the same amount out. So they increase based on the timing. Other finances uses are amounts that you transfer to your other funds, or sale of property, or insurance decided that they owed you more money. That didn't happen this year, but it can always happen in the future, so that's where that would be in. You did have a decrease in your general fund balance, but not by anything that is any worrisome amount. That is a normal amount for a school district to decrease, and with that lease revenue coming in future years, I don't see that being as big of an issue, because the amount that was portrayed in the 24-25 school district statements did not have a full year of lease revenue. It started shortly before the end of the school year, honestly. So that lease revenue will be higher in future years. Your single audit for your federal awards, no internal control deficiencies, no compliance issues, unmodified opinion, all the good stuff. And then I also have my contact information and Brian's contact information on the back. Otherwise, I had no issues. The team at the administrative building is great. They're quick to respond, and we get the information out on time. So you're low risk for next year, and we don't foresee any issues coming, because the transition was very smooth between Brett and Becky. That's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
Yeah, as I look at this paper, would you give us an A then?
Yes.
The top
A+.
that has an A on it. Give us an
A+.
A plus. Even better, A plus.
I'll give you an A+, yeah.
Can I ask this question just out of curiosity?
Absolutely.
Is this audit submitted to the state, or what do we do with it?
Yes, so because you had a single audit, that was submitted to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse and available for public view. Additionally, the state uses that clearinghouse submission for their single audit as well. So the federal one was prepared and submitted by us and reviewed and also accepted by Becky, submitted, and then we forward that to the state.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Mark. Oh, go ahead.
This is kind of says to the members of the Board of Management. I guess that's us.
You're the members of the board, and then Becky's management.
Oh, and, okay. I've never heard us referred to as the Board of Management. Now I see, and there I go, stand corrected.
So the audit itself spans, in theory, 2 school years.
No,
So,
we specifically look at one school year at a time. From July 1st of this particular audit that I'm talking about is from July 1st of 2024 through 6/30 of 2025. So the one that will start in the fall will be for July 1st, 25 through June 30,
so
26.
it follows the sort of the,
It follows the school's fiscal
Calendar.
calendar. Yeah,
thank you, that's what I wanted to know.
yeah.
And I just wanted to thank Margaret for being here and presenting this to you as a board. It's an important step. We should have had our last month when you approved the auditor's report, but we are compliant and doing things the way we're supposed to do them. I know it can be dry sometimes, but I think it's important that we all hear, what's happening, and I appreciate you coming out and sharing with us tonight.
Of course, definitely always open for questions. If you have any questions afterwards, after you review all this, feel free to send me an email. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, but I don't have any issues with your team, so I'm sure we'll have a smooth year next year as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Margaret.
And I'll make another copy for myself next time, I swear.
Thank you. And next up, as you know, this is the budget season, so we are going to do a preliminary budget report. And I'm going to move out so you can see. I'm not going to help Rebecca. You do have a copy in front of you at the table of the slideshow.
You right there.
Nice.
actually see it.
Did you
too.
see that? What's the popcorn?
Yeah, I don't think you guys can see it.
Oh, you can stay.
I'm not sure I want to see this.
I'm on this.
Yeah, it's kind of tight angle there. Excuse me.
Testing.
Not sure I want to see this. Right.
Chair only goes this way.
Yeah, there you go.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. This is our preliminary proposed budget for the upcoming school year 26-27. In front of you, you have a copy of the presentation that's also available publicly. And then also in your packet behind that presentation, you have a one-page summary review of what's in the presentation that I thought would be helpful to you. And then you also have what is referred to as the CFERS budget. This is the data information that is entered into the state budget system and breaks down all the function and object codes. So those are all the items you have in front of you, but we're gonna focus on the presentation itself. So the presentation for the 26-27 school year starts out with estimated proposed expenditures of $71,932,909. And then if you go to the next page, so Penn Trafford's report card, we're all about education in schools, so we do have a good report card. We're first academically in the county. We're top 3% in state in achievement. We are the second lowest spend in the county as well. We are efficient, effective, quality education. Our millage rate in the county is the 7th lowest out of 19 school districts in Westmoreland County. And we currently are financially responsible for 3,887 students. If you go to the next page, I'm not going to read all of this for you, but I thought this was important to include for your benefit, but it's the PA school chart of accounts and it's the glossary. So everything that we do financially has to be coded by function and then by object. So sometimes people don't know what they all mean. So for example, purchase property services under object code 300, that's where you're gonna find the bills that we pay and expenses for our auditor, our solicitor, our tax collectors, our security contracted services, and items like that. Your 500 object code level is your other purchase services, and that includes your transportation, cyber charter, and outplaced tuition students. So I thought it was important to share that slide with you so you have it for your education and information when you're reviewing the budget that's at the state level, in case you had a question about, I don't understand what's in a 300, or I don't understand what's in the 2000. So I wanted to add that for you so that you have some helpful information as you go through this process with me. So if you go to the next slide, so our 26-27 budget timeline, as you can see, we started in December. You adopted your Act 1 index, which means we will not raise taxes above the index. And also statutorily, we cannot raise taxes above the index because we receive adequacy funding. In February, the governor gave his budget address, which gave us the proposed numbers that we could use for our basic subsidy for basic education, special education, our transportation subsidy, as well as our Ready to Learn grant and adequacy funds. So that information was in February. From January to April, we've been building the budget, meeting with principals, meeting with all of the admin team, reviewing all the lines code by code to get the information needed to prepare these numbers for you this evening. In April, our healthcare rates were set. So the rates were set at the consortium of 7% plus an additional, for the different plans, a rate adjustment. So our PPO plan came in at an 8.78% increase, which I budgeted 8.3%. But thankfully there was some adjustment room with some resignations, so that all worked out. And it's still a high increase, but it's a lot better than the 10% from last year and the higher percentage. I think it was over 10 the prior year as well. So it's definitely heading in the right
Just
direction.
a question, is that
Yeah.
healthcare consortium something we have to be in, or?
We are a member of the healthcare consortium, and it is smart to be in that because it takes all of the exposure off of us as one district. So if we have a catastrophic event that we're covering, we would have to pay all of that. But when we pool together, so it is a good thing for us to be in that.
But to your question, is not required, but we choose it.
We choose, yeah. And we are a member of that. So, and the little star, so we're here right now, we are in May 4th, and it's the presentation of the information you'll have for next Monday to vote on the preliminary budget. Statutorily, we have to vote on that and have it available for public inspection per the Act 1 timeline and the school budget, PA school code. Yes, sure.
With Ryan's request about the consortium, because the corner of our school district, small corner of Trafford, is Allegheny County. We checked into 2 or 3 contracts with those members, all right? We compared West Warren expenses consortiums compared to Allegheny County consortium, because we were eligible for Allegheny County because of our location. And there was minimal difference. Okay, so.
And I can also speak on behalf of that. My prior district, I was in Allegheny Consortium, so there's really no savings to jump ship and go that way, based on the numbers I've had and seen. So, but that's where we're at in our budget timeline process, so we're right on time, right where we should be. So then, this is important. So the budget process and how I approached this budget and what we've been doing. So I reviewed the last 3 to 5 years of actual spending per category for both revenues and expenditures to identify the trends for the proposed budget amounts across all of the categories. We have over 1,500 account codes, so it was a large task, but I did get through all of them. The budget is aligned per the actual spending pursuant to the school code chart of accounts, and those were the codes that I shared with you a few slides ago. Also important to note, our salaries and benefits are contracted, and it makes up 74% of our entire budget. Our building supply budgets were all held flat. There was no increase there. And then state mandates for curriculum with the handwriting, special ed, which is our outplaced students and things we have to do for IEPs, security and cyber charter, and the other mandates are all budgeted accordingly to what we are required to provide in actual expenditures.
Were you able to get rid of any accounts that weren't used?
Yes.
I mean, 1,500 accounts, that's a lot.
It is a lot. So some of them, what happens is the school code chart of accounts, they will change the account number. So sometimes there's just an old account there, and it stays in our system because you have that history that ties into that account. So you can't get rid of it in your software system, but I was able to eliminate it from what I was looking at. And I apologize, I should have started by saying, use your pencil. Any questions you have, if you want to write them down as we go through, and if you can hold your questions till the end, that might be helpful, because a lot of the questions you might have, I'm sure I'll get to as the slides progress in the presentation. But your next page shows you your summary of revenues and expenditures, and I have listed on the left for you your prior years, and you can see in all the past 4 years, we have passed a deficit budget, meaning our expenses have been higher than our revenues. And then you can see proposed for this school year, our expenses are proposed at the $71,932,909. That is $1.978 million higher than last year, which is 2.83%. It is in line with prior years, as last year it was about 1.5 million increase, about 2.5%. So it's really not off, considering the extra things we needed to add to the budget for the things that we need. Our revenues are currently budgeted at $70,348,011. That is an increase of almost $500,000 over last year. So next slide will show you our revenues. Excuse me. So the largest decreases, I'll start with that first, to our revenue. Earned income tax collections based on historical data needed to be reduced $50,000. Our transportation subsidy, based on our preliminary report from the state for transportation that was received in March, also needs to be reduced $68,790. Our plan con has been reduced $25,500. The plan con is the reimbursement from the state for the old construction and the bond and the debt service. And then our access funds had to be reduced $50,000 based on what is available that we have available that we could draw on. So the happy news for the increases on the revenue side is we were able to add almost $400,000 for the Ready to Learn grant adequacy funds, and that gets us up to what we actually received this year. Our retirement and FICA subsidy increased $183,334. Our special ed and basic ed subsidy, I was able to increase them to what we received this year, plus then took what the governor has proposed, and based on the last 3 to 5 years, identified what our normal increase is, percentage-wise, applied that, and it's about half. So I was able to increase our special ed a little over $40,000, and our basic ed a little over $35,000. And then our rentals, which would be our lease of the Randall Court, the admin building, increased $40,000 from what was budgeted last year. So that's included as well. So if you go to the next page, this is your summary of revenues. So your local funds is $38,458,557. Your state funds from the state are $31,036,374. Federal is a very tiny piece that we get for Title I, and that's estimated to be $573,080. And then Category 9,000 is other revenue, and that $280,000 that you see there, that is your lease rental revenue from the admin building. So that category, as you heard Margaret say from the auditing firm, we used to have that in our local revenue spot, but because it's considered a lease, it needed to be moved per the chart of accounts to the 9,000s. So that's, why it's singled out by itself, is because statute, to be in compliance with the code of accounts and chart of accounts, that's where we have to put it. So that is part of the total revenue in the general budget that is proposed for you, the $70,348,011.
What percent is that percent?
Very good question. On the next slide, so our, here you go, you're welcome. So on the next slide, that chart shows you that 55% of our total budgeted revenue is local, 44% of it is from the state, 1% is from federal, and our 0% other is the $280,000. It doesn't even factor a percentage, but it is part of our revenue.
44% include transportation, correct?
Yes. Yep, that is all your state revenue. So then if you go to the next slide, your expenditures, the proposal is $71,932,909. On the left-hand side, I've broken it down by function code. So instructional represents over $42 million. Support instruction staff represents over $24 million. Your athletics and co-curriculars represent almost $2 million. Building construction is 0, and that is because if we do any building and construction, we do that out of the capital projects fund, so it's not in our general fund budget. And then our financing and debt service is budgeted at $3.3 million, and that is inclusive, that is our bond payment, our interest on our bond payment, plus then the general fund transfer to capital projects for capital projects needs, either projects to be done or reserves, depending on what the board would like to see moving forward. Those functions are then broken down into our object codes on the right-hand side, and the object codes represent everything from salaries to purchase services to supplies to our debt. But as you can see, 74% of our entire budgeted expenditures are salaries and benefits. Almost $53,386,000 is the count for those expenditures. So, that's a huge number, and it's all contracted, so there's really not much wiggle room we can do with that number. So that is your overview of your expenditures. So what is the largest impact to our expenditures? If you go to the next page, so decreases, we had over $600,000 decrease in retirement and resignations, rounded number. Our workman's compensation insurance came in lower. We got a really good rate from our insurance broker carrier, so that was a $20,000 savings, and that was a nice surprise. Because initially, my first budget numbers were higher in that category, so I was happy to be able to gain some savings there. The largest increases in the budget, salaries and benefits is $1.2 million, 8.78% is medical. Security went up $231,000, and that includes adding $50,000 to that budget for supplies for security needs across the district. Our technology is up $212,000, and that is attributed to the high school technology needs of $57,000 for the computer lab. And then our MacBook leases of $90,000, and then our iPads. I know we approved our iPad lease, I think it was about $161,000 is what we approved per year to pay on that lease, but we were able to cut the Chromebooks, and that was about $100,000. So that's why it's only showing about a $61,000 increase for that line item, because I was able to reduce the Chromebook line item $100,000.
Rebecca?
Yes.
On that retirement for a minute, it used to be one time, the employee paid 1/3, the employer paid 1/3, and the state paid 1/3. Is that formula still the same like that, or has that changed?
No. So we pay 34% currently is the employer share.
They paid before, okay.
Yeah.
How much does the employee pay?
The employee contributes anywhere from 7 to 10%.
And the state pays the rest?
Mm.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. And at one point, that PSERS rate for the district employer cost used to only be like 7% or 8%, so they really,
So the state pays almost half then?
mhm.
Well, that's a surprise.
Yep, but that rate will be going up again. And then our VOTEC students, that budget code is up almost $200,000. We have 140 potential students, which is an increase of 23 students over last year's budget. And that line item is close to a little over $900,000 just for the VOTEC subsidy that we'll be paying tuition for those students. And then our utilities, based on our averages and what we're actually spending, everything from electric, gas, water, phone, especially electric, I had to increase that budget line by $156,500 in total, the majority of it being the electrical cost. And then if you go to the next slide, it just takes all of those numbers. I know some people learn better by seeing it instead of the actual numbers itself, but you can see that 59% is instructional, 34% is our support staff. So those two numbers there, 93% of the budget is being spent on what we're supposed to be doing here, which is the education of our kids. And then you can see that 4% is represented as our debt service, and 3% is the athletics and activities that we have in the district. So I just wanted to show you that in graph form so you can get a clear picture of all of those expenditures and where all the funds are going. And 93% is exactly where it's supposed to be, because our main goal is educating our kids and providing them that first-class education. And then the next slide, I know it's hard to see, but this slide you have in your packet that's behind the presentation. But this is just a breakdown of the actual spending in 24-25, what was budgeted last year in 25-26, the proposed budget in 26-27, what the percentage of the total budget is for each of those categories, and then an increase or decrease across those categories by dollar amount, and then also the percentage increase. And that is everything from our regular instruction, the whole way down to our budgetary reserve, which, as you can see, there's nothing budgeted in budgetary reserve. But this is everything, where everything goes, and the analysis that's been done over the last couple months to just lock in where our actual expenditures are and aligning them with the budget in that way. So that brings us to the next conversation, and part of our budget is our fund balance. So our fund balance, the audited as of June 30th of 2025 was $72,105. So the maximum unassigned fund balance that we can have per the state is 8% and unassigned, and that's $5,717,556. So obviously, we're a little over that, but that is okay because we do have committed fund balance. The goal for the district that I would like to see us at is 12%, which is approximately 2 months of expenses, and that number would be $8,576,335. So the next page shows you, this is our audited fund balance deficit history. So the column, the yellow, represents the beginning fund balance, the red represents the ending fund balance, and as you can see, there's been a steady decline year over year of the fund balance being used and having a deficit, and then the blue line that you see there going up is the 12% that would be a better place for us to be at. And then how do we compare to others around us? So I went on to the PD website and gathered information about our budgeted fund balances from our neighboring school districts, from Franklin Regional, Norwin, Kiski, Latrobe, and Greensburg-Salem. And it shows you their budgeted expenditures and then what their budgeted fund balance was for the 25-26 school year and what their percent of budgeted expenditures were. So as you can see, we're the lowest around our neighbors, and just shows you we have some work that we could do. Obviously, if you go by the audited fund balance, our fund balance is higher than what was budgeted, so that is a good thing. So that increases the percentage a little bit, but it's definitely not in that 12% where I would like us to be, to put us in a good perspective for the future. So then after we talk about fund balance, we need to talk about our millage rate history. So I went back 5 years, and you have your millage rate, which was 89.75 in the 22-23 school year. Currently, 25-26, it's at 93.75. You can see the next column has the millage increase value and the average yearly taxpayer increase, and then the monthly taxpayer increase. So last year, you raised taxes 3 mills, which was approximately $84 a year for your average taxpayer, broken down to $7 a month. If we went to the index of 4.125 mills, that would take our Westmoreland County millage rate to 97.87 mills, and that would be an average of $199 increase for the year for average taxpayers, which breaks down to $16.64 a month. And then what is that impact for our taxpayers? So your median assessed property value in Westmoreland County is $28,040. Your average home in 25-26 at the current millage rate pays $2,544.63 for their property tax bill. If we do a 4.125 tax increase for millage, that rate of 97.87 would mean $2,744.27, which shows you the increase of $199. The current homestead farmstead exemption, and that is the money, the property tax relief from the slot revenue that we receive from the state. Currently, that factor is $232. So if taxpayers qualify for that, that is reduced from their tax bill. The reason why it has a question mark there for this year's rate is I don't have the number yet, because the state just sent us the Friday at 4 o'clock, we got the property tax allocation, so unfortunately, I did not have enough time to draft that number, but now that I have it, I'm hopeful to have that number for you on Monday when we come back and meet again. And then the next slide, I wanted to show you, so the Act 1 index versus our millage rate history. So the last couple years, you can see, I wanted to show you what the mill was increased, what was available to be increased if you went to the index or even half of the index, And then the next column shows you the millage that was not raised, and then on the right-hand column, it's the value of those mills that weren't raised. So collectively, the maximum, if you would have gone to the Act 1 index, you left on the table, we would have an additional $11 million either in our fund balance or capital reserve to work with. So that's the maximum. Obviously, if you would have gone middle of the road, maybe that could be a $6 million number. A little less than half of that could be a $2 million number. But like in the 23-24 school year, there were no mills increased. We could have gone 4.67, and that would have generated $1.468 million in tax revenue. In 24-25, we went 1 mill. There was 6.1 available, so that left 5.1 available, and that was 1.6 million. So on years when we don't raise taxes at a consistent level that is fair and equitable, we put ourselves behind. It's important to note that the Act 1 index was created by the state so that it limits the school board's authority to go no higher than a certain rate, to be respectful and mindful of all property owners. But it also identifies our assessed value, our market value, our step value from the state, our median incomes, and it's a whole formula that the state uses. And it's essentially important that that be part of our long-term plan here, because you can't just look at 1 year at a time. We have to look at what millage we raise or don't raise this year continues to impact every year following in the plans that we have. So I thought it was an important slide to share with you of the rate history and what we've left on the table. Obviously,
Rebecca, doesn't that interfere with our ratings for what we also get due to new formulas when we haven't raised enough?
No, it really doesn't impact the new formula. It really just is money that's been left behind. So that's money we could have locally had, and it's money the state is never going to give us. So again, I'm not advocating that you go to the maximum all the time. I don't think we have to be there, but you run a risk if you don't have a strategic plan moving forward, because what's happening, and you can clearly see it here, in 23-24, our index was 4.67. The next year it went up to 6.1. Now it's back down to 4.63. And based on what we've received from the state, that number is going to continue to fall. So next year that number for the max that we could go for millage might only be 3. And you can see in 21-22, the highest we could go was 2.9. So what you're going to see is there was this climb in the index up to that 6.1, that percentage adjusted for Penn Trafford, and now it's coming back down the other way, and it's heading back down to 2 mills. So it's really important that we have a multi-year plan, because if you don't tax when you can, then as the index falls, you're not going to have that capability, because you can't go above the index because you receive the state adequacy funding as well. So it's a really fine line that we need to walk, but I think it was just really important to show that to you so you can see, where those plans need to be, and maybe that can help guide us forward in achieving the goals that you might have.
The state wants you to pay your fair share.
Correct. The state does want you to pay your fair share and responsibly pay your fair share. The reason why the index came around is because they didn't want it to go from, okay, no mills, no mills, no mills, no mills, and then, we're going to do a new build, so you're getting a 12 mil increase all at one time.
And this past year, I believe we had the second lowest percentage increase in the county.
Yeah. So it all ties into that. So on the next slide is our path to a balanced budget. Okay. So our current deficit is $1.584 million. And how do we get to a balanced budget? So there are some options. Option number 1, and these are just considerations, and we have a lot of work to do, but option number 1 is a 4.125 mil increase, which is 4.4% at our current collected value. That would bring in $1.3 million. We could reduce our debt service, which would be, currently it's budgeted at $3.3 million. So there's some flexibility there if we needed to. And then we might get those adequacy funds, which is almost $400,000. So that is one way to get to a balanced budget and have a surplus. The next option would be if you only did raise your taxes 1 to 3 mils, you would definitely have to reduce your debt service. You would have to get those adequacy funds from the state, and you would have to reduce staff. And then the third option, if you don't want to raise taxes at all, you have to reduce your debt service. We would have to get the adequacy funds from the state. We would have to reduce staff, and we would have to cut programs. So moving on from there, so next week, May 11th, you will adopt the preliminary proposed budget. Again, that's not the final budget, that's just where we're starting at, and it needs to be voted and approved so we can post it and move on to the process of coming up with our final budget. I and the administration team will continue the process towards the balanced budget with options and opportunities for the board to discuss. I'll also this week be working on the homestead farmstead property value estimates to complete those as well. We'll also recommend options to continue the path to the balanced budget or a surplus budget to build our fund balance. And then June 1st, we'll present a final proposed budget for you. And then June 8th is our budget adoption. So that's our timeline that we have remaining. And there are still some moving parts to the budget for expense. Like the VOTEC, I believe, is finalizing the numbers for students for next year. There might be a $20,000 savings there. I believe we might have a resignation, so there might be some savings there. So the numbers you see today are worst case scenario. So there is still work to be done. Yes.
I thought we had 30 days on the preliminary budget for final. Am I looking at that right? It May 11th? June 8th, that's not 30 days. Is that okay?
Pauline counted it, yeah.
She counted it, okay, because look at, I can't,
Yeah,
we're short, it's 28 days, okay.
we're okay.
No, that's very close.
Yes, but we're okay. She double checked it for me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then the next slide shows you some considerations to think about. So what level of debt service should we maintain moving forward? Our current budget reflects $3.3 million, which is our fund, or our bond, our debt service payment, our interest payment, plus then almost, I believe, $760,000 to transfer from the general fund to the capital projects fund. That was $580,000, and I know you guys had requested that as the money falls off of the bond and the interest, that money should be preserved and moved to capital reserve. So I did take that money, added it to the $580,000, and increased that. So it maintains that current level of debt service that we have in the current budget of $3.3 million. So the question is, do we need to maintain it at $3 million? Does it need to be $3.2 million? Does it need to be $3.1 million? $3 million? Where do we want it to be? What projects are we going to do moving forward? It kind of ties into the conversations we had last month about our options with future borrowing. So that's a consideration to think about and discuss. The adequacy funds. Will the state budget pass? Well, it must pass. I'm hopeful it will pass on time, or at least better than November from last year. But will they approve what they've proposed? If they do, that means another $397,000 in adequacy funds for the district, which is more than $1 million. That would be a huge help. That solves the budget deficit with that and a tax increase without touching your debt service number at that $3.3 million. But again, that's not a guarantee. So what risk, reward do we take with that? And then the admin building lease revenue is included in this budget to help offset the current expenditures. So if you want to remove that and dedicate that, then again, you're going to have to make cuts or reduce your debt service. You know, like mathematically, it just doesn't, you only have so many mills to work with. Our expenses are what they are, our revenues are what they are. So those are the decisions and some considerations that need to be made. And the last page just says thank you and to be continued, because it's not over and done, but this is the starting point. But I hope I've been clear, and I know I've been thorough, so I hope we can move this forward, and I can help you, and you can help me and our admin team get to a final balanced budget and stop passing deficit budgets. That definitely needs to be something we lock in for sure. So I'm ready for the questions, but I need a drink of water first, if that's okay. I have my water over here.
Very nice.
Thank you all for listening. I know that's a lot. No, I don't need the screen on for the questions.
But easy to understand, you did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, I can go back to my seat if that's okay with everybody.
That debt service you're asking about, is it 3.3, the highest level that that's been? Was it 3.4, 3.5?
I don't have that answer. That's just where it is right now, but I could look that up and get
Yeah,
it
we
for you
definitely
for
want to
next
know as a
week.
board, because this board member definitely wants to keep that debt service. You know, that's our only way to do repairs to buildings or capital improvements. You cannot use that debt service for current expenses.
Yep.
So if it's dropping and we're not aware of that, we need to put it back to where it was and deal with the consequences. Because again, Nick will say that wherever Nick is, you don't touch that money. It's coming off the books to pay your, because you'll never get it back.
Right, so if you look, our budgeted debt service in last year's budget was 2.746 million, and then we also had the 580 that we transferred. So that is a little over 3.3 million. So this year, our debt service, because the bond payment is lowering and the interest is lowering, so it went down to 2.565 million, which is $181,000 less. So I increased the transfer to capital reserve or projects, you know, whichever one it wants to go, to $736,369, which is an increase of 156. Now, somebody's gonna ask me, well, why isn't it 181? So the reason it's not 181 is because I also had to reduce the PlanCon subsidy reimbursement by $25,000. So I can increase that, but then it just increases the deficit as well. So your subsidy and your help from the state in that reimbursement is going away. But that's the difference. It's the net increase to maintain and sustain that debt level.
Yeah, I'm glad that you did that, and as this debt comes off and you're making those transfers, you have to make the board know in the future that when they use that money, if they decide somewhere 2, 3, 4 years from now to use that to pay for existing expenses, you must paint the picture for them, what they're doing. They're handcuffing themselves, as far as I'm concerned, of any ability to build a new building in the future. Without PlanCon, taking that money is just, it's foolish. So, you know, I might not be here, other board members not be here, and you're moving this money, it might get very tempting in the future to make a decision or tell the board that it's better to use it for expenses, but I'm just warning you now against using it for that.
And the other part of that too, maintaining that debt profile service is really important for the decisions coming up with what we're gonna do moving forward. Definitely important for the bonds that we're considering when the wraparound, you know, when that debt falls off. So it's definitely an important conversation to have. I recommend, you know, keeping it at that level, but I also recommend not using that $780,000 to fix old buildings. We might want to consider slowing off on some of those projects and holding on to that money and waiting for our next bond to start doing some better projects. So those are just some of my recommendations, but I really think the one-page summary that I gave you, second, will help you navigate some of the documents, and these documents represent revenue and expenditures. These are the numbers that I have to type into the state, into their budget process so that we are compliant. But I'll gladly answer any questions you have while I'm drinking my water.
Rebecca, would you want that $20,000 a month we get rental fee to go towards that $700,000?
Yeah, so that, the revenue we're generating from the lease, the $280,000, is part of our general fund revenue. So it can be considered that it's going, you know, and it's part of that 700, like, it doesn't matter how you look at it, it's part of the revenue.
Yeah, but once you get it with that $700,000, it's gonna stay there.
Well, if we maintain that level, we'll maintain that level.
Yeah.
And it would go to capital reserve, waiting for the project, or capital projects waiting for the project, but it would, you know, it would be set aside for whatever decisions we make for buildings.
Yeah, it wouldn't go for buying new trucks or anything else like that.
No,
If
once
you
it
could do that,
transfers
that'd be
to
ideal.
capital reserve or projects, it has to stay there. The only thing you can pay out of capital reserve is you could pay your bond payment and your interest, or you could transfer it to capital projects to pay for building, construction, renovations, things like
Would you
that.
want that in a motion, or you just want that?
Well, we're not to that point yet. We
Okay.
really need to
All right.
get
All right.
the preliminary passed, and then we need to decide and make decisions moving forward
Let
of
us
what the
know.
plan is.
Because I would gladly present that.
Okay.
Just a couple of questions. As I look back at 22, 23, 23, 24, and 24, 25, the actual prior years, the actual expenses?
Where you at?
For next Monday, could you do me a favor and actually let us know what was budgeted
Mhm.
for those years? Because, I mean, this is the actual.
Well, no, this was budgeted. Are you on page?
I'm on the summary of revenue and expenditures page.
Yep, so does it say, it says budgeted, correct?
No, it says expenses.
Right, budgeted 25, 26 expenditures.
Those aren't the actual.
No, these were the budgeted.
So I'm gonna be the first to tell you that I don't remember having a discussion each year of $720,000 of unallocated revenue.
Yeah.
I don't remember those conversations, to be quite frank with you.
And then if you, so there is one page, that smaller print page that shows you the actuals for 24, 25, but I can go back and look up actuals versus
I'd be curious to know
budget.
the actuals, because it just is not a good feeling to me.
Okay,
That we went every year having a shortfall of $720-some thousand.
yeah,
And particularly in the fiscal year 22, 23,
Yeah.
which I think your historical page, which I'm getting there, was a millage increase of 0.
yeah. Keep in mind, and I will look and get you the actuals, that go along with that. This was also, and I wasn't here, so I don't like to speak out of
No,
turn.
no.
But this was also during ESSER's funds, where, so like you received them and you had to spend them down. So I don't know that you necessarily passed this much of a deficit budget, but this is where it landed, and it could have had something to do with the ESSER's funds. So, but I will look that up and bring it back for Monday.
I don't remember
I
coming
gotcha.
in knowing we were $725,000 short
Right.
for.
And when did the ESSER's fund end?
ESSER's funds
About a-
ended, I believe you had to use them by December 30th of 2025.
So about
But-
a year ago.
Yeah, and but I'm pretty sure
short
that
every
you
year.
guys were done
Not
with
that
that
much.
by June 30th
were.
of, like,
obviously.
before that deadline.
And that would probably
Oh, back in
partially,
my
at
old
least
document.
partially answer his question.
that what you
Yeah, it could,
I
and- but I
believe
don't wanna
that
speak
much.
out of turn.
Well,
just
3 years in a
because
row, it's
I don't have it all memorized.
Well, I think that's
yet.
something that you
Well, my
can
question
zero in
would
on
have been,
in.
why is it
and you
seven,
can
seven,
quantify
seven,
that. I
and
think that's
84,
where the
then
answer
one point
lies.
Yeah,
five?
but I'll
That's the
definitely,
question.
oops, I'm sorry. Who's next?
Same page.
You done, Scott?
Yeah, it was all around that. Thanks.
Pardon me?
It was all around this question.
Okay. So,
I'll come back to it.
excuse me, this is my first year, so excuse me for any ignorance that I may have regarding this situation, but I suppose we should start with the good news.
Okay,
And the good news is, we are first, Penn Trafford is first academically in Westmoreland County.
yes,
We are in the top 3% in achievement. for the entire state.
Yeah.
We are the second lowest spend in Westmoreland County. Our millage rate is seventh lowest out of 19.
Yes.
I think we have effectively and efficiently educated the children in our district.
I agree with you. That's why I started with good news.
So, thank you. You know, maybe the timing on this is impeccable. It's Teacher Appreciation Week, and everything that I just said is a result of our incredible teachers that we have in this district.
We do. We have really great staff.
Now,
Yes.
the back half of this is, that is a horrific financial outlook for this district, in my opinion. How many years, so some questions, how many years have we been deficit spending?
Well, based on that slide that Scott was questioning, it's been at least the last 4.
So for 4 years, we've taken from our savings account to cover our operational budget.
Right, but keep
And
in
that
mind.
leaves us in a place where a tax increase to the index level will not even cover our current expenses.
Quite possibly.
So we have to, like, this isn't even where we want to, or we may have to, you know, we may want to think about. We have some hard cuts to make in the next 28 days, if Colleen did her math correctly.
Well, I hope it's 30. It needs to be
30.
30, or we need
Okay.
to,
And then from
have
there,
a motion to amend the
if we
agenda
want
to
to put
take a
money
vote.
away into this reserve fund, we need to cut even more. Am I reading that? And I suppose my final question is, who is it that convinced our board to go with 1.5 mil, 0, 1 mil, 3 mils at a time when 4.1 isn't even cutting or covering our expenses? How did we get here?
Because it was never presented that way, Mr. John. I look at this, and I was gonna piggyback off of Scott's concern. So how do you go from 700, 700, 700 to 84 to 1.5 of his deficit? Don't you think it's just curious, in last year's budget, we were only deficit at 85,000?
Well, that deficit last year, though, is represented by the 3 mil tax increase that you did to get it down to that 84,000.
I get it, but then you jump from 84 to 1.5 in 1 year.
Without a tax increase.
Listen, I'm not tearing down the walls. I'm just making the argument for him, that somebody who hasn't been on this board. It wasn't like, here
It's
you
been
are,
that way
guys.
for decades, John, with this board. And I agree with you 100%, but the makeup of the board, very conservative, and that's just, you know, I don't know what else I can tell you.
So the good deeds that we have been doing as a board in the interest of,
And John, remember, we're doing it with next to zero commercial tax base.
That's one of the big problems we have. We don't have the commercial tax base a lot of our peers. The Route 22 corridor, the Route 30 corridor, we don't have that. Route 130 hasn't even
well,
developed much.
maybe it's time we work with our local municipal officials and educate them on the help that they could provide us.
Well, it's
That-
interesting.
Because we are at the mercy of the tax base that the municipalities that this school district serves provide us.
No.
Hey.
As you know, I've tried that over the years when I was working both sides of the fence, and it didn't get too far.
Dallas, John, Brian, you guys know, if you would bring Brian in and converse with him, I believe George, if you would make the argument with him, you know, you look at that chart, I think when I got on here, it was 5149 of state versus what the local, 5149. Look where it's at now. And I believe if you would bring Brian in here, not to put him on the spot, because I believe this is what George was communicating with us. He's gonna tell you that the Republican caucus is saying, you guys have enough money, you're just spending it poorly. Just to break it down. And when I mean poorly, it's in the contracts that you're giving out. I'm just stating what I understand, not that I'm saying one way or the other. So, to your point, if you would bring him in here as your state legislature in this district that he's in, and he's gonna advocate for you, he's got an uphill climb. I would have told Rebecca to bring him in here and have him explain how the local taxpayer is now every year taking on more of the burden.
Well,
When it's supposed to be, I don't know what the law is, I don't know if there is a 50-50 law.
no, there's a formula though. And Kim Ward came in one year. and
Yeah.
explained it to
Yeah,
us.
we've had Kim Ward and George Dunbar in here. We've invited them in more than once
It's not the
and asked them these
Republican caucus, it's the
difficult
formula.
questions and didn't get great answers.
Yeah, but
It's not just once. We've
It may
asked them
not be
several
that, but I
times.
believe they think that there's being enough
Yeah.
money funded to
Well, so the
schools.
formula
Pay
drives what our
60%,
subsidy
Formula drives
is,
it.
40%.
and that's based on our average daily
Median
membership,
income,
median income,
Reduced lunch,
correct, all of
English
that.
non-primary speaking.
Yeah, it's all wrapped together, and then if you remember the lawsuit against the state that they weren't paying their fair share, that is how we are now getting this extra adequacy money every year, because our Ready to Learn grant, I believe, used to be closer to, was it 500,000?
Plus 560.
And now we're up to 1.152 million, and if the current budget goes through as passed, they'll add another 397 to that, so we'll be up to almost 1.5 million. So, you know, that's kind of where we're at with the state, getting them to pay their fair share, if you will.
Formula.
Yes, well, the formula is very old,
It's the formula.
right?
And we've already proven as a district, it's not the amount of money that you throw into trying to educate a student, because we do that as one of the best. But the fact is that the state gives more money to underperforming schools and doesn't reward the performing schools. And that's been a battle for forever.
And just so you know, we are,
It's been ever since I've been on the board.
Yeah.
This is my 18th, 19th year.
yeah,
We've been
we
battling
are the
that.
second lowest spend in the
And so with that
county.
being said, we have about $350,000 worth of spend to cut.
Yeah.
A couple comments. First of all, about 30-some years ago, I was somewhat, as president of PTO, going to these meetings. And I wish I was in high school. No, my kids were about, no. They're not that old. At one time, I believe the state was paying 60%, and we were paying close, they're paying close to 60, we're paying close to 40, so it really has,
It has reversed.
It has
I
reversed.
watched it go.
yes. Now towards Scott Concho's point, I do remember a time or two maybe, Brett saying that we were gonna go into, our fund balance to a sizable, but I concur with him, and I think, I asked Jim, we don't remember this. And it's, you know, and I can't imagine the three of us
Yeah.
would not have remembered it.
Right. Well, I will go back and get all the data and see if I can track it down, but it's probably ESSER's related, if I want to put my
I
finger
think
on
that's
it.
part of the key. I'm
You may
pretty
find
sure
that.
from other board positions I've been involved in, I think, look at the ESSERs, I think that's gonna at least a significant answer, at least partial to the question that you
Right.
were asking. Now, in the past, when we went into our fund balance, there were times when we went in to repair roofs. We took chunks out of the fund balance for, I believe, Harrison Park roof. And I don't remember exactly, but we took big chunks out of our fund balance the last several years. McCullough, Harrison Park, and I don't want to say them all because I don't remember
The
exactly.
admin building, we pay out of our fund balance.
Yeah.
That
So
is true, that's a big
We
hit.
have
That's a big
absolutely
hit.
dipped into our fund balance
But
significantly.
these are
for-
one-time purchases.
In mostly buildings, grounds, and trying to preserve the buildings. Like I always said, keep the roofs intact, the foundations are probably good, but we get to the point where we can't continue that on the ongoing, long-term basis. We're approaching that, but, I have a question here. You may not know the answer to this. This says on the, Penn Trafford report card, second lowest spend in county. Who's lower than us?
Norwin, by $271.
That's one. Who's the other one?
No, we
Although,
are,
okay,
we're
we're
number-
only number two.
we're number 2.
So
I-
we
I
spent a little,
validate that.
but I think
I'm
Norton-
looking at some of these and
What's that?
And Norton has around 30.
I would say Latrobe's less than us, Greensburg Salem's less than us.
For He's talking lowest spend. Are you talking
student.
fund, what are you?
Cost per pupil or you
Cost
cost
per
per
Yeah,
student.
that's cost per
taxes?
pupil, not budget.
I'm not sure what you're pulling that from.
So the.
Are you talking about cost per student?
Cost per student.
Okay, well, I think we need to be
Yes.
clear about that.
Yeah, because I guarantee you, that, the reason I asked is, city of Jet has to be way lower than us in spending, but cost per student, no.
Probably high.
Overall spending, their budget's way
Yeah.
lower. So this is in cost per, right?
Cost per student.
Okay, that
Yes.
explains it, yes.
Yes, yes.
Becky, you have a couple questions.
Rich has some, oh, and Brian has some too.
You can
Who's
go
first?
Good.
We, as far as dedicated fund balances, we have two, correct? The capital project and,
There's capital projects fund and capital reserve. There's about not quite 100,000 in cap reserve.
and you say the capital reserve is to pay,
Well, cap reserve is a pot of money that can sit there to grow, to be used for projects, or to be used to pay your debt service.
now, if we're talking about setting money aside for new construction, and the extra that you have put into the capital project fund, I would like to see that fund being, the other dedicated fund being, maybe even relabeled as a building / renovation fund for the really big projects. If we're bringing, our debt service is coming down and we're bringing that money somewhere else, I'm okay with the 580 in the capital projects fund because that goes to a good use. But ultimately, that was supposed to be the fund for new construction and renovation, but it somehow morphed into the project fund. But I think, I would like to see a project fund and a building fund,
Yeah.
new construction.
And we have, the cap reserve is Fund 32, which is about $100,000 in there. And then Fund 39 is the capital project fund and has a little over, I think it has 700,000 in it. We transferred 580 into it from the
Right,
general fund. And then it had a little bit of residual left over from the prior year. So that's what's currently in there. And then we have the projects approved to be done over the summer, which
Right.
will probably take about 350, I can't remember the math off the top of my head, but it will reduce that down, and then we'll transfer more, but then you can make the decision, are we transferring it into the project fund or the reserve fund?
Right.
But once you transfer those monies in there, that's where they stay.
Has
They
to
can't
stay
come
there.
back to the general fund. And the fund balance is the general fund. It's like your savings account. It's what's left over at
Right.
the end of the year, revenues versus, over expenses. And what's left in your
At one
piggy
point
bank.
in time, we did pass a mill, what we firmly designated that one mill was to go to nothing but a reserve fund for new buildings. And we nibbled away at it for years. It was there, Matt, you can correct me where I'm overstating
We
it.
kind of talked about this last month too.
Yeah.
That was brought up.
We definitely had one mill, and a roof went bad, we took it out. We kept eating away at it. Now it's down to, what'd you just say was in there?
There's $100,000 in cap reserve.
And that was, it was a whole lot more, it was in the millions.
But Dennis, we didn't designate vocabulary correctly,
That's
that
what
was the
we
problem.
talked about
That's,
last week.
well, we didn't monitor as well as we could, but whenever the big expenses came up, Harrison Park roof, McCullough roof, and there's others, we dipped in $1 million at a time to fix roofs
In
and
middle
stuff.
school now, $200,000.
So we collectively, as a board, approved drawing those down.
But Nick is right. We last month discussed how little there was, and we didn't do the wording
We
right.
weren't specific enough.
We weren't specific enough so that it was consistently going into that account.
Going in and staying in,
Well,
that was the part.
We weren't
Going
even
in
sure
was
when.
okay.
Dennis, when you got these old buildings,
I know.
they keep on building you left and right.
They will.
$100,000 for a floor at Penn Middle School. I mean, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Well, the gym, yeah, well, a lot of places.
Yeah, it's true.
The
Hey,
roofs
gentlemen.
were the biggie.
Brian's got some
I'm
questions.
worried about Penn
Sorry,
Middle School.
Brian.
Your summary of revenues,
Yes.
280,000 you have on there for interest.
What's that? What's that?
What page are you on? I'm sorry. Summary of revenues.
That was the lease, Mel. This is the lease.
Oh, was
That's
that
the
was
lease, the 280,000.
Was that for the lease?
That's the lease, and it used to be under local revenue, but we had to move it down to the other category because it's designated as a lease and a receivable per the chart of accounts.
I saw interest on here somewhere.
So dues and interest maybe on the expenditures page under the object codes. So that, the interest there, that's the interest on our bond on the debt service. The majority of it is all that. So the interest there, I think it's like $465,000 or $470,000, and then the rest that falls into the object code 800 is dues and fees associated for just the different licensing we have to pay for teachers and staff.
And the 9.2 under other purchase service, me and Phil were talking about that. What's that?
Yeah, so under the 500s, and that's why I put that glossary in on page 3. So your 500 object codes includes transportation, cyber charter, outplaced student tuition, so like the students that have to go to St. Vincent or Adelphi or any of those other places. But transportation in that 500, transportation is like 4.7 million, I believe. Cyber charter expenses is probably 1.2 million of that. Outplaced tuition, 1.2, 1.3 million. What else is in?
Just to make something for John. John,
Yes, sir.
our favorite word here as a board is unfunded mandates, right?
Yeah.
So, right there is a great example of one, a charter school. You give that 1.2 million back to us and we're not at a deficit very much, are we?
Look,
It's
I
just something,
understand.
no, I'm just, it's in the, everybody can listen to it. It's just things that we can't control, but we're expected to control, if that makes sense.
Well, don't forget that state, and we may be headed there again this year with a governor that has a whole lot of spending and not a whole lot of revenues. But that state budget impasse passed last year cost this district over $140,000.
You're right.
That's the estimated value.
$140,000, and we're going back at spending more than we have this year if you look at the governor's budget.
I think we need to give Representative Razzle some credit there. Matt sent out an email there that he introduced legislation that would fund schools at 85% if there was another budget impasse. So,
Yeah.
you've got to give him props for, taking initiative on doing that.
Yes.
One other observation here, our salaries compared to our benefits, there's not, there's about $8 million difference there compared to what we pay for benefits and salaries.
Well, benefits, I mean, you figure medical benefits for a family cost about $32,000 a year. PSERS is, and FICA, so our Medicare, Social Security that we have to pay on top of that is about 41% on top of the salaries. So it's a huge chunk.
And one final question, $75,000, a decrease in grant money there.
Yeah.
$75,000, what was that from?
So that is the PCCD grant funds. I removed the revenue because the expenditures aren't budgeted, and the PCCD grants, and those grants are very variable. We never know if we're getting them, when we're getting them, how much we're getting, and what they're for. So it's really not worth it to place a revenue there that's really not going against the expenses we have in the budget, because any of those grants we're getting are spent on something specific that was not budgeted. So that's why.
Okay, I have a question that was posed to me not too long.
Hold on, Dallas.
Sorry.
I have one final
Yeah,
question.
Jim's after,
Oh, I
Brian.
didn't.
Assets, do we have money tied up in CDs or anything like that, or?
We do. We have, so we invest our money through PISLOF, and they make sure, all of our money that we don't need for bills, we have in short-term and long-term to gain as much interest as we can. And that drives our interest income and our revenue side. So yeah, it's not just sitting at S&T Bank, it is well invested, so it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, sorry.
Salaries and benefits, 74% of our budget, that seems like a very high number. Is that, are we top-heavy in that area, or is that common?
No, it's very common, and some
Okay,
districts
so
run
that-
82%.
It's been higher here too.
It's
I've
been
seen it
higher
in the
here,
low
and
80s.
that's
I've
what
seen it
I-
up in the 82 range. and
Right.
down
Oh,
to
for
that.
sure.
Definitely
So-
been around 80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's very common, and if you think about it, I mean, that's what we're here to do, is instruct and, and our people, and that's how we're high achieving, and, we have the right people in the right place, but we are definitely not top-heavy in teaching or admin or staff at all. We do a really good job of, just like we had the retirements, and we're not replacing, so that's being managed, because if those retirements wouldn't have happened, we'd be having a much different conversation.
We'd be back up in the 80s.
Right.
And that,
For
and I
sure.
can remember distinctly years where we were in the 82, 83 range,
Yeah.
Thank
very
you.
often.
Yeah.
But is it my turn for a question?
Yes, sorry, thanks for waiting.
Yeah. I didn't mean to jump lines. The charter schools, this was posed to me recently. How many students do we have in charter enrollment?
I believe currently we're at 97 students.
And what's the cost per on them?
So the cost per student for regular ed, I believe, is now, it's, I think, 12,300.
I think it's about a little over 12.
Special ed is in the 20s per student.
But the charter is higher, I thought.
Charter is higher. It's probably 15 for regular ed and 26 for special ed.
Well, special ed and regular ed is usually a big gap.
Yes.
But the charter costs are something we don't have a choice. And
Correct.
it's directly out of our budget.
Correct.
So in budget line items, we have, you said around 90?
97.
And that is a big cost. And we, at unfunded mandates, we have no control over it.
1.2 million.
We're still waiting, if I could just add one thing, we're still waiting to hear what we're to do with those students who have not provided us the residency requirements. Because we have a large chunk of students who did not,
Charter students.
yes, like cyber students, who.
Well, I guess I'm misusing, it's cyber charter, that.
Yeah, so it's our
Those are
cyber
different.
students, and they have to provide us with the residency requirements, and the majority of our students have not done that. So we have to wait to find our guidance from the state, because we are supposed to be able to take them off our rolls, but right now we have no
We just appealed
guidance.
two, and they came off. They were not our residents.
Yes.
We appealed two, and they came off.
Yeah, didn't we win the appeal on 3 of those students? Yeah, so
We have
that,
many more.
I would take them off and they can fight us to
Down
get
the
back
road.
on.
well,
I agree.
but
Well,
what
I agree.
happens though, if we take them off, they'll hit our subsidy
Yeah.
and take the money that way.
Some battles are worth fighting.
Yeah.
Well, they
We
still
have a
take
lot.
their money.
They still get the money.
I want to say it's like
Well-
47 or 48 or something. It's like, it's a very large number.
That's almost, 50%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. it's
Becky, you said about
50%.
15,000 per charter student?
For our brick and mortar, probably about 15, I think it's a little close to 13. I can bring those numbers
I thought it was
back.
like 13 and a half, roughly, round numbers.
It could be, yeah.
And 'cause the IU gathers all that data, and I guess they get it from you, but I know I get it.
Yes.
But-
Oh, I have it, I
Yeah,
just
there's
don't
a
have it all
But
100%
and the
memorized.
special ed, there's always a big gap. It's
Yes.
60% or more. you
Yeah.
know. So, but I would like a close number on what charter is costing.
Yeah.
Well, does charter include not only Propel, does it include schools like School for Deaf, Deaf, School for Blind?
No, that is our outplaced students.
Okay, that's the, okay.
The cyber charter would just be like Propel, Westinghouse, PA Cyber, CCA.
And they have to be
Okay.
an accredited charter cyber
Correct.
institution to qualify. And I don't know who tracks that,
Yeah,
I
the
don't know.
state.
Supposedly. Again, those seem like a little loosey-goosey stuff going on there.
Rebecca, can I get your opinion on something?
Yes.
For the board, just for general information? Say that the board increases to the index at 4 point whatever that was. You're still gonna have a deficit of $200,000 to $300,000. How are you gonna make that up?
Well, that would be the admin's recommendation with Dr. Harris, and what we could do.
So what are we talking about, Dr. Harris?
Well, we are gonna
There's
come up.
also the adequacy fund.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do.
If the adequacy-
I'm just
Yeah,
asking in
You're just
general.
saying if that doesn't come in.
Correct.
Well, every year at this time, we prepare a list of cuts that we've already made, and we've also, we'll prepare you a list of, if we don't get all the mills, one mill, what our top recommendations are, what our second recommendations are, and third. So we will bring that list to you, and we can share that in public.
All right, second question, just for the board's information. You had mentioned getting back to a balanced budget. All right, what does that look like over the next 3 years? Are we talking 4 this year, 4 next year, 4 the year after that? Are we talking 4, 2, and 3? Give me some idea of how many mills you're looking at to get us back to a balanced budget over 3 years.
So we need to start with year one.
Right, just say that's a given.
Right.
What are we looking at years 2 and 3?
Honestly, in today's market with inflation and contracted salaries and the buildings we need to do, you're probably looking at going to the index every year.
So, see, to me, okay, I appreciate the information. To me, that's something, to me, it's not.
Well, I don't know what the index
I
is
get
yet,
it. I
so if
appreciate
it's
your
3
honesty, but
mills.
I don't know, it's not a plan to keep increasing to the index.
Right.
So I just want everybody to hear that.
And not that I'd be a proponent of what I'm gonna state next, but there are ways to go above the index. I know of some school districts that have
Well,
done that.
You
and-
have to go out to voter referendum and,
But, and I'm not saying I'd even want to propose that, but I know of a couple of districts that I'm aware of from a broader view that I have, that have done that pretty often.
School districts in Ohio do it all the time.
There's ones right here.
That's how they
There's
live.
ones right here in
None of
PA
them
that
get
do
the
it.
votes they need.
Pardon
None
me?
of the referendums ever pass.
All right,
Not for a tax increase.
Well, some of them do, for sure.
School districts just,
I'm sorry I had
Get
bad
worse and
news, but I hope it's understandable and presented well
it's a good
and
discussion.
Presented very well.
Good job.
Just
Your
a
portion
question.
was understandable. The last 3 years, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember ever seeing $700-some thousand for the last 3 years,
yeah.
in full transparency.
And I agree with you.
Totally agree.
And
Yeah,
I'm almost
totally.
gonna go back and pull mine, because I guarantee it wasn't something like that.
And it
Well,
was
I'll go back
definitely
to
not this
and
clear.
get your actuals and,
Yeah. But your budget was excellent, by the way. And I think it's the first time in a while that there was the level of depth and transparency that I think we experienced. So, thank you.
no, thank you. Thanks
I
for your
would-
time.
Listen, I would like to see, when you bring cuts to us, I would like to see extracurriculars cut before any academic programs are cut. Right? These club teams that aren't, we have some tough decisions to make, and I don't want it to be about academics, because obviously, our teachers are busting their butts to do what they can with what we give them, and we cannot cut what we give our teachers to educate our children with.
In the
We are
past,
in the business of educating children, and when it comes to cutting, it can't be from those academic programs.
well, in the past, we have looked extensively at extracurriculars, and we enumerated them, and a lot of it's athletics. And every time it come down to it, there wasn't much of a bang for buck in cutting extracurriculars.
Unfortunately, that only represents 3% of the budget, which she
Right.
kind of explained.
And try cutting the big,
What
like
happens, you do all
football
the-
field teams and that. like
all that
uniforms.
together, it doesn't really equal the impact of maybe cutting another program or staff.
Everyone, I appreciate the discussion. Asking the board if we're good now, we can move on for the rest of the meeting. Vice President?
There's one more thing to share.
One more thing before you leave.
Okay.
All right, back to Dr. Harris. Thank
right.
you, everybody.
I wanted to end with some actually excellent news. Steve Vinton reminded me, and I wanted to share this at the beginning. Our students continue to raise the bar with the PTTV video. We have earned 11 nominations this year for the 2026 National Academy of Television Arts and Science Mid-Atlantic Student Production Awards, the highest total of any school in the Mid-Atlantic chapter. This recognition reflects the incredible talent, dedication, and professionalism of our student journalists, filmmakers, editors, producers, and on-air talent who work tirelessly to create meaningful stories and high-quality production. So, very proud of him and all the students. Every year they get a ton of awards, recognition, and they do a great job. So when we're talking about extracurriculars, and I know this ties into curriculum as well, they go above and beyond. So that's one program I do enjoy, and I'm a fan of all programs for kids, because some students just need the extra something in their life to give them something outside of the academics as well.
You also mentioned Mrs. Wukich has our quiz team. They've been in Harrisburg all weekend. And I don't know how they came back, we don't have the results yet, but they were, again, in a statewide competition, they ranked.
Yeah, congratulations to both programs.
Yes.
Do you want me to continue?
Yes, please, yeah, finish up.
For next week, and remember, if anything you want removed to the consent agenda, now would be a good time to do it, because we don't always have to do it at the meeting, and we could just tell Rebecca and myself, and we can move it. Under extracurricular and athletics, there's no items to report. Under budget and finance, we're gonna ask you to adopt a preliminary budget. And we're gonna ask you to designate a treasurer and approve the CWC-TC budget, and award a bid for paper. Under buildings and grounds and safety, we're gonna ask you to approve the Head Start agreements. Under employee relations and food service, there's nothing to report. Under personnel and curriculum, we're gonna ask you to approve the personnel agenda, authorize the administration to issue reasonable assurance of employment notice, approve the Adelphi education agreement, approve the FID program, and approve the subscription for elementary curriculum materials. Under policy, public relations, legislative, Title II, we're gonna ask you to approve the list of graduates in the class of 2026. Approve the board policies and admin regulations. Approve 2026-2027 PSBA membership. There won't be items under taxes, insurance, and census. And there are no visitors tonight, Mr. Kachasik.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. This concludes today's meeting.
Thank you.